Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Middle of October, middle of European month. It's time to see how I've been getting on with these pens during my halftime report. The first pen is the Laramie Safari. Here we go. So this has got a broad nib. I do like the black of the nib. I think it really suits this dark charcoal colour. Now I started the month, hopefully you can see this, with Diamine Beethoven. Beautiful green ink. Real pleasure to write with. But then as the month went on, obviously that ink ran out and I replaced it with this, which is Lamy Crystal Obsidian. What a difference the ink makes with this pen. It's gone from a nice writing pen that I've enjoyed using to a dry feeling pen with a load of railroading. Quite a surprising difference just by changing the ink. Now, for those wondering, this is a Rhodia notebook. It's A5, and this is the notebook that I use, that I do my writing in every day, and that's what I use on my YouTube short videos. So if you want to check them out, why not go and check out some of the YouTube shorts? But yeah, it's the nib which makes the difference here. I mean, the pen itself, it's light, it's plastic. I expected that. The weight doesn't bother me. The section, you know, it's got that triangular section. Hopefully, let's see if I can capture that on the camera. There we go. Again, doesn't bother me too much. It does hurt a little bit because I find my finger digs right in just down here. But yeah, changing the ink made it go from being a nice writer to a bad writer. And I've found that with a number of different inks in this pens. So that's why it's a pen that I'm really on the fence about. Second pen is the Conveco Spot. This is in the translucent white. This is a nice pen. It's short. I mean, I expect that. It's got a 1.1 stub on it. I've been enjoying using this pen. For all that it's short, it's quite enjoyable. Just get to the right page, then I can show you my writing. So at the start of the month, we started off with Dominant Industry Lungo. Absolutely love this ink in this pen. It looks so nice. It behaves so well. But because I use the converter in here, let me just show you. The converter's only small. It's actually out of ink now, and I'm not planning to refill it because I'm only getting maybe 1.5 writing sessions per fill. But I absolutely loved that Lungo. I think it's such a nice ink. I then replaced it, he says, trying to find the right page, here we go, with Diamine Pink Ice. This was from the 2021 Inkvent calendar. Now, pink isn't normally a colour I'd go for. But what I thought with this pen, because of how small that converter is, how quickly it runs out, I thought, yeah, Gary, go on, give it a try. I'll tell you something I wish I hadn't. I don't know if you can see on here. So this side here, this is where I start writing with it. When I start using it, it's very, very dry. It feels like I'm dragging it on the page. Once I prime the feed, which is what we're getting on this side of the paper, so you can see the first line at the top of this was unprimed, then I primed it and carried on. I actually like it. It's really nice. But you've got to remember to prime the feed. You've got to get that ink flowing. The other thing with this ink, it should have like a silver shimmer to it. I haven't seen that in any of my writing. And I know there was shimmer in there, and I made sure I agitated it before I started writing each time. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But with the Lungo, I loved that. I may actually fill this up again. Won't be for this month, but I think I might fill this up again with Lungo. But instead of using the converter, I think I might actually eyedropper that because I just love the combo so much. The third pen. This one, it's another one where it's been two extremes. This is the Colt Mini. It's a tiny pen. I mean, there's my middle finger. It's almost as long as my middle finger. It's got a nice double broad nib on it. Not sure if you can see this. This pen, I'm going to turn it up this way to make sure that it doesn't fall out. It takes a cartridge, but it doesn't take any cartridge converter that I've been able to find. So what I do is I refill the cartridge, which is good actually because the ink, it lasts a long time that way because I get quite a lot in the cartridge. So at the start of the month, I had an ink by a Chinese company called Ancient Song. Let me just find it in the book. There we go. And it's called Fisherman's Song. Now, this ink is also called Ancient Charm Song of the Fisherman. So depending where you buy it from, it depends on the name of the ink. So this was at the start of the month. I like the colour of this ink. I think it's got a lot in there. I've only got a sample of it. But in this pen, it was horrible. It's very similar to the Safari, where it just felt like I was dragging. It really was a horrible ink to use. Yes, there was what appeared to be a lot of shading, but by the time I got to the bottom of my second page, you could hardly see the writing. It was just so disappointing. So this is another one that I changed the ink. I didn't even wait for it to finish. I actually threw it down the sink because I just could not write with it. It was so horrible. I replaced that with a Robert Oster ink, and it's called Blue Water Ice. Here we've got the example of that. This ink, again, nice ink, nice, gorgeous blue. The ink should have a red sheen to it. I haven't seen that yet. Now, I've only done 2 writing sessions with it, so I've got to do more trying, but so far it's a bit disappointing. The pen itself, very small. I'll cover more of that though when we do the end of the month report. My fourth pen is Parker Sonnet. I've had this pen since 2009. I believe it was actually manufactured in 2007. This is a pen with special meaning for me. Not sure if it will come over on the camera. Let me see if I can get it to focus. This is where Gary does his cack-handed trying to get something to focus. There it is. Hopefully you can see the engraving there where it says Grandad 2009. This was a gift from some of my grandchildren. Love this pen. Up till this use, I've had problems with it. Whenever I used it, by holding it there, I'd come away and my fingers would be covered in ink, no matter what ink I had in here. So what I did before filling it this time, I pulled out the nib and feed and I put the whole thing, well, obviously not the metal parts, but the nib and the feed and the section, I put that all through my ultrasonic cleaner and I gave a really deep clean. I then put it back together and I'm on my second fill of ink in here. So far, not had any of those issues with leaking. So I think the fact of pulling it out and then putting it back in nicely, hopefully is what's fixed the issue. I started the month with Diamine Writer's Blood. This pen and this ink, wow, I loved it. This is the pen at the moment that's possibly going to be number 1. Really enjoying it. I mean, yes, I know I've got that emotional tie to it as well. That will count to me at the end of the day. All these things count. So I started with Writer's Blood. Then just 2 or 3 days ago, I actually changed it because the ink ran out. And let me see if I can get to the right page. This is the problem. Oh, I can't because I haven't written with it. What I'm going to do is show you some of my really scruffy writing because I'll show you my notes. I put in Diamine Royal Red. But to me, it looks orange. When I'm writing my notes for this, I write it with the pen that I'm going to be talking about, which is why I've got different colours. It's definitely not a red. It's an orange. Now, it's a sample. I've had it well over a year, so maybe, something's happened to the ink over that year. I did give it a good shake before I started filling the pen, but I'm really disappointed with this Royal Red. But I loved that previous ink. That Writer's Blood, to me, that looked so nice. And after I do my next writing session, I may dump this Royal Red and go back to Writer's Blood. Or I might even try something like Diamine Merlot or Ox Blood or Syrah. Not sure, but at the moment, just not enjoying this, which is a shame because the swatch I have for this Royal Red looks really nice. The 5th pen, this is by Leonardo, and it's the Furore. This is in a gorgeous white salt colour. Now, one of the issues I've got with this pen is, not sure if you can see it, there's some stain in here of the ink colour into the section. And I found that with a number of inks, that the ink gets between the section and the nib unit and just stains it. It does wash out really easily, so when I empty the ink out, I just pull out the nib, twist it out, it twists out, and then give it a good clean. It comes up all right. Could be to do with how I'm filling it. When I dip the pen in the ink. Maybe I'm going a little bit too deep, so it's drawing some ink up between the gap there. Quite likely. But it's happening. The ink, haven't changed the ink in this. The ink in there lasts and lasts. This is Diamine Earl Grey. Absolutely love this grey ink. Not sure how much that's coming over. This is a 1.1 stub nib. And what I'm finding with this, the actual stub nib itself, it catches when I'm writing. I think it's because it's untipped. So every time I use this, I'm just using a bit of micro mesh and slowly working to try and reduce that catching. And it does seem to be reducing. But one of the other things I'm noticing, I have to have my hand orientated perfectly to get the stub nature coming out. Whereas with the Sport, it just happens no matter how I hold the pen. Final pen this month, Diplomat Error. I love this. This is in the factory. It's a broad nib. It's such a nice pen to write with. It's smooth, but there is a little tiny bit of feedback. I like feedback in my pens because I really enjoy the tactile nature of it. Now, I started the month with Dominant Industry Lake. Here we go. Such a nice ink. Really nice, really pretty. Lots of shading coming through. It's the first time I've had this ink in a pen. It did run out though when I last used it. So I've since filled it with Diamine Marine, which is a very similar colour. Let me just get one of my notebooks. Again, I haven't had a writing session with this, so I can't really show you it writing. But what I can show you, this is a pad I got from Desk Bandit. It's 68 GSM Tomoe River paper, and it sits in my Galen leather folio, so I know what pen and ink I've got with me in there. So as you can see down here, we've got the Lake and Marine, and very, very similar in colour. So looking forward to trying that with Marine. I do like Marine, and I have had Diamine Marine in this pen a few months ago. So to wrap up the video, well, I've been quite busy this month. One of the things, and this is where I'd like to get input from. Currently, I run 3 different channels. I've got this channel, which is my main one where I focus on fountain pens. I've also got one where I'm looking at personal productivity. And in there, I'm giving personal productivity tips, but I'm also moving more towards looking at things like building automations and showing people how to build automations so they can get more done with their mobile devices or their computers. The third channel, that's called Tricky Little Questions. That's the channel where I take one question each week and then I spend usually about 10 minutes in a video to answer it. It actually takes me a lot longer to do the research and write it, but I'm quite enjoying that. So I've done videos on there, things like how does Spider-Man and his webs work? Could Spider-Man swing through a city? I've also looked at things like light and the speed of light. I've got a video coming up in a couple of weeks where I've dug a little bit into the current cost of living crisis to try and dig into that. I wanted to understand it more myself, so that's where I think it's really nice to make a video from it. So my question to you, at the moment they're on 3 different channels. Would you like to see all of them on this one channel? So I fetch the other 2 videos per week and put them onto this channel as well. Please drop your thoughts down below. Really interested to get really people's input for this. I'm patiently waiting for this year's Inkvent calendar to arrive. I'm currently planning what I'm going to be doing with that. I'm thinking I'm going to do something similar as to last year, where the aim is to have, well, I target 5 minutes, but it's usually more like 10 minutes, a short video every day where I'll be taking the ink out of the calendar, I'll be swatching it, doing a little tiny writing sample with a dip pen. Now, last year, I had an advent calendar. It was a Mandalorian calendar. So I'm still looking for one for this year because I quite enjoyed doing that bit. And that meant, as well as me getting the ink, each day my wife got the chocolate because I don't really eat chocolate. So she got to enjoy that. And then also last year, my wife had bought a number of stationery and non-stationery gifts. And each day I had one of those. And she's told me she's already done that. She's got them all ready to go. So that's something else I'm looking to do on it. Now, is there anything else you'd like to see me doing on this? Because I'd like, again, to get your input. Now, one thing I'm going to say though, these videos, they won't actually be recorded on the day of the ink. I like to record my videos 2 to 3 weeks in advance. I mean, some videos I record months in advance. I've actually got a video coming out in, I think it's December, that I recorded in April. I just do that because then I can batch up my videos, but also it gives me enough time to be able to record and then edit before they go out. So looking forward to that, really looking forward to hearing your comments on what other things you'd like to see maybe in that ink vent video. In November, we're also going to be doing a series on fountain pens, obviously, but what I'm doing is a series looking at broad nibbed pens. So there's going to be 3 heats and then a final. The final won't happen until December. And in the heats, the first one, I'm looking at 3 pens from Germany, different manufacturers with broad nibs. The second video, I'm going to be looking at manufacturers from Taiwan, again, just the broad nibs. Then the third one, I'm going to be looking at 2 pens that have come from Japan, again, broad nibbed. And then the final one, that's going to be taking the winner of each of those 3 heats and comparing them against each other. So that's coming up in November. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What other things would you like to see me doing? I'm starting to do a lot of my planning for next year. I've already got a load of ideas, but I'd love to get more. One of the things I'm toying with is I may open up my planning database so that people can read it and then send me ideas based on what they see that I've already got in there. Please drop a comment down below with any videos you'd like to see me making. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.